Hi there, Kelsey Toner here, the founder of Guest-Focused Tour Business Coaching, where every day we help tour business owners around the world create, market, and sell unforgettable experiences. In this video here today, we're going to be giving you a blueprint for handling underperforming staff and tour leaders. We're going to break down 6 best practices for myself and our team of tour business coaches. Now, most of us probably appreciate that, hey, having a tour leader or a guide who's not doing a great job is suboptimal for our tours, activities, and experiences, but we sometimes forget just how much of an impact it can have. Of course, there's the online reviews and your reputation management, but there's also that loss of word-of-mouth recommendations. There's the impact on team morale. There's the impact on whether or not there'll be other opportunities from partners based on your reputation for delivering exceptional experiences. Not to mention, you could also get yourself into legal trouble if there are more serious breaches from your team. And of course, all of this compounds during our peak season, when we are at our busiest, when we have more guests than ever and more guest interactions than ever. These underperforming staff, tour leaders, and guides can have a massive impact on our tour business. And though it might feel like it's not a priority to provide performance reviews, to do some mid-season coaching and check-ins, and potentially even removing underperforming staff when we are at our busiest, that is actually when it is the most important. So let's get after 6 essential tactics for helping you succeed. Firstly, and most importantly, we have to start with your job descriptions and key deliverables. Many tour business owners have some sort of job description that they probably used during the hiring process, and your guides underwent some training. But very few have tapped into the secret to success here, which is actually having some key deliverables. In here, I literally mean a list. It can be in the form of a checklist of specific things you would like your tour leaders and guides to do before the tour, during the tour, and after the tour. And the key is to make them as specific and measurable as possible. Very generic statements tend not to work. In fact, let's go through a couple examples to make this really clear. So this checklist of specific deliverables is something that we need to give to our guides and actually have them sign off on. So here's an example. Make sure our guests are having a good time. Very, very broad. This is the type of thing that we typically expect from our tour leaders versus something much more specific that we could add to this checklist and make it clear that we would expect this specific behavior every time you lead a tour. So take the time during lunch to individually check in with each guest or group or family. Ask if they're having a good time or if they have any questions or concerns. This is a much more specific request and an example of a great key deliverable. Here's another one. Be ready for your tours. Far too broad, right? Versus be ready 15 minutes prior to your tour and be set up at the meeting location. Very clear, very measurable, right? Use this time to welcome guests, learn their names, and ask about their interests. Beautiful. One last example. Instead of just saying, yes, we welcome the guests, here is what we can do to be much more explicit. Individually welcome every guest as they arrive with a warm smile and introduce yourself. Take a moment to introduce those guests to other members of the tour. So as you can see, this is going to look a little bit different for each one of our companies. But the real secret here is to then present this during training and have all of our guests actually sign off that they understand that these are some of the key deliverables that you are expecting, and that to the best of their ability, they're going to do every single one of the things on this list every time that they're on tour. So this sets you up for success in a number of ways. First and foremost, we've got great communication about some really specific deliverables. We're going to be able to measure performance based off of some very specific criteria versus just saying, well, yeah, I did warmly welcome guests. It just wasn't the way that you thought I should. Now we're being very explicit about those expectations. A second great way that you can use this checklist of key deliverables is that you can leverage it in a mystery shopper program. So if you are not collecting individual scores from your guides, this is a great way to assess performance, is by having a friend, a guest. You can hire companies to do this, but essentially they would go on your tour and then afterwards they would have this extra survey of these exact key deliverables. Hey, did your guides warmly welcome you when you first arrived? Did they check in with you at lunch, etc., etc.? And you can get a feel for how closely an individual is actually doing their delivery. And this doesn't have to be secret. You don't have to be going behind anyone's back, but it's a very powerful way to, one, keep everyone on their toes, knowing that they might have a mystery shopper coming through. You don't have to be explicit about who and when. And secondly, it's again going to be a really clear metric by which we're measuring that performance. Okay, I hear you. You might be thinking, well, I'm partway through the season. Is this going to work for me? Well, 100%. You can start this partway through your season. When is the best time to focus on quality and elevating your guest experience? Yesterday, and today. So you can create this expectation list, these key deliverables, and have your your guides sign off on them partway through the season, and that's going to set you up for success at the year-end evaluation. Our next best practice is having individual performance reviews and leveraging coaching cards. These two best practices go hand in hand, and we recommend 3 individual check-ins at minimum over the course of your average season. The first is right after training, where you're sitting down with an individual tour leader or guide or staff member, and you're going through with some of their strengths, some of the things that they may want to work on or keep an eye on over the coming season. The second, and arguably one of the more important, that is most neglected by tour business owners out there, is that mid-season check-in. It often comes when we are at the busiest, but it is just mind-blowing to me that so many business owners out there don't address issues that are cropping up partway through the season, whether that is guides not doing what they're supposed to do, or we're just seeing a dip in reviews, a lower quality experience for guests who happen to be with an individual staff member. The guest-focused thing to do is address that, and address that quickly. If you wait until the end of the season, or you put that off, think of the hundreds, in some cases thousands, of guests that individual staff member may be impacting. The guest-focused thing is to do mid-season course corrections, and it gives you more of a leg to stand on, basically, when you get to their year-end performance review, because they can feel cheated as well. When you get to the end of the year and they said, hey, you've been doing this, I saw you first doing it like 3 months ago, but by the way, I didn't mention it to you. That's not a great feeling for that underperforming staff either, who may have risen to the challenge, or with better communication, may have understood and corrected some of their behaviors. And that last check-in is, of course, happening at the end of the season. Let me give you a quick overview of a tour leader coaching card which matches perfectly with this process. This is a simple 1-page template that you can use in your tour business, and it's a great tool for frank and open conversation about performance and key deliverables that acts as a coaching system versus just a performance review or some sort of evaluation done at the end of the year. Let's have a look at each of the 3 key sections on the tour leader coaching card, aside from, of course, our name and date at the top. The first section is Got It Down. These are skills, actions, and phrasing that the leader uses regularly with confidence and understanding. This is your opportunity to reinforce some of the great things that they're doing and you want them to continue to do. The next section is at Making Progress. The leader has shown improvement in the use of the skills listed here, but has not got them down securely yet. This is an opportunity to flag some progress, but to also recognize that there's still work to be done. And that third section is, hey, every tour leader is always improving, so here is stuff to work on. These are some skills that the leader can focus on next. These are some behaviors that need to be corrected. A really powerful way to use these cards is to actually have each individual tour leader or guide fill out this card before they come to their check-in. And then the supervisor or the guide trainer does the same sort of thing, and then they're able to share and compare notes. This is a much more collaborative way to do your evaluations, which will still give you the opportunity in that third section to do some important course correction. So this is where any sort of performance improvement plan details will go. And it's important that we be really specific if there are behaviors that need to change, if there are responsibilities that are not being met, or in the case that there are serious infractions from neglect to inappropriate behavior. This needs to be documented, and you need to have a very clear plan of action. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Here is when we're next going to check in, and here are the consequences if we don't see a change in that behavior. Those 3 important steps do need to be explicit in the performance improvement plan of the third part of the coaching card. Now, in many cases, the ultimate consequence of not seeing an improvement, or if it is a serious enough infraction, will be letting this individual go. But keep in mind that you also have other incentives, carrots and sticks, punishments that you might want to consider leveraging. Just a couple quick examples. I once worked for a company whereas if you dropped a schedule, you would not be eligible to come on their year-end staff ride or reward like that. Another business owner shared with me once that they actually have sort of a scheduling priority, right? So you might be offered less work if we don't see a change in behavior, if we don't maintain a certain performance threshold, X consequence. So this is where the more explicit we are, the more sort of fair it's going to be for the individual that we're coaching. And of course, we want to give them that opportunity to succeed and do everything we can to get them to course correct. If you'd like to get your own free copy of one of our coaching cards, you can head over to guestfocus.com/coaching card. Okay, let's get on to our third best practice, which is quite simply remove underperforming staff. If we've set our expectations, had clear communication, and come up with performance improvement plans, when we've done our coaching through the season and we are not seeing a change, let these individuals go. It's time to fire them. A great coach, a great leader, not only knows how to motivate people and get the best out of them, but they also know that if you are not showing up and working hard, if you are not listening and you are not pulling your weight, you are off the team. So why doesn't this happen? Well, there are lots of reasons. Some of the most common that we encounter are that tour business owners have underhired for their season. Things like injuries, things like unknown unavailability, and things like underperforming tour leaders are things that you should plan for at the start of your season. We need to recruit, hire, and train enough people, preparing ourselves for mid-season when somebody gets hurt, or we've got to let somebody go. Too many tour business owners get themselves trapped into a situation where I just don't have any staff to hire, right? We just live with that low performance. We live with subpar guest experience because it's going to be too costly for our business. So it's time to take some radical ownership and recognize that this is most oftenly our fault as a tour business owner if we have underhired and can't afford to let somebody go. Following our guest focus methodology, it's important for you to be obsessed with quality, obsessed with that guest experience. Think of companies that have that high bar. Is Disney not going to let somebody go because they're going to lose a bit of money? No, they're thinking over the long term. They're actually thinking, I can't afford to let this underperforming staff member be here in Disney World, impacting our brand, our quality, our reputation, our online reviews, our ability to drive word of mouth sales, and beyond. What does true quality look like? I remember working for a company where every year they had something like 200, 250 tour leaders at that time. They let go, meaning they fired the lowest performing 10%. We had individual scores where we were ranked by our guests on our tour leader performance. And they simply said the way that we can improve is, of course, we reward and build loyalty with our best performers, hang on to them with everything we can, but then we let go of the bottom 10% year after year after year. 4, we need to build a culture of constant, never-ending improvement. We need to build a guest-focused culture if we want to have success in our tour and activity businesses. What does this look like? Well, first and foremost, it means leading by example. It means instilling in our tour leaders that no matter how great your tour is, there's always a way to make it better. No matter how great a tour leader you think you are, there's always a way to improve. Thinking like a professional athlete, thinking like somebody who's in the NBA, and every day they're out there and they're drilling and they're working hard and they're doing scrimmages and drills. Already they're in the top performing elite of the entire world. They're better basketball players than 99.9% of the people on the planet, but they're out there working hard at it every day. And when we see that kind of effort, we want to reward it and we want to recognize it. Foods of New York is a great food tour company that I had the pleasure of doing some work with years ago. And one of the things they did that I loved was getting all of their tour leaders together once a month. And they'd take them out for dinner, they'd get some pizzas. I think I even sat in on a meatball dinner when I was down there. And they went through their reviews over the past month, through the feedback that they had gotten. And yes, they recognized some people with some great reviews, but a lot of the time it was a team brainstorm on, hey, how could we handle this particular issue? Or, hey, does the person in this particular review who may have had an issue or a complaint have a point? How could we improve together? This is what excellence looks like. I knew another company that if you got a score or particular, like a low scoring review, it triggered a meeting with whoever happened to be leading that tour. One, it was just a system where we were regularly acknowledging, hey, something didn't go right here. How can we fix it for next time? These types of systems and this type of culture is how we can improve our guest experience. Our 5th best practice has to do with those incentives. Yes, we want to communicate clearly, set expectations, and discipline those underperforming tour leaders, but we also want to incentivize them to do better. Here's some great examples from companies that we've worked with and from our tour business coaches. I know this great tour business owner who's had a ton of success out in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and he has a system with his guides. But if you are mentioned in a 5-star review by name, you get an extra $5 every single time that happens. Now, he has an admin team that helps him with this, and he views it as a marketing expense. He's large enough, this could be anywhere from, $5,000 to $8,000 a month in some of his peak seasons, but he views it as an investment in marketing, as an incentive, not only to help ensure his tour leaders are doing the best they can so they can get that 5-star review, but really putting in that extra effort. He even encourages them to use that script and say, hey, look, if you had a great time today, here's a bonus program that iCompany runs. If you have the opportunity to leave a review for us. If you do me the honor of mentioning me by name, I'll get an extra little bonus from the company. So it's all transparent. And many of the guests love taking that extra step, knowing that it's really going to help out their tour leader. Another company I know does something similar, but is more around a team focus. They say, hey, if we are able to hit this threshold of a certain number of 5-star reviews, let's say on Google or TripAdvisor or wherever you might have a focused campaign, the team would get a bonus that everyone receives if we're able to get to that certain threshold. I know a number of active travel companies that give away really high performance gear and clothing to their top performers each month. I know others that give away straight up Amazon gift cards to recognize the guides and staff leaders that are going above and beyond or got those really rave reviews. All of these incentives are really important when they're in line with your regular coaching, with your performance evaluations. It's important that we not only punish those who are underperforming, give them the feedback that they need, but also create incentives to do good and raise the bar in your company. And our final best practice has to do with creating a world-class training program for your tour leaders, guides, and staff. This is where we can set them up for success. And many tour business owners do an okay job doing things like shadowing, obviously getting our tour leaders following other experienced tour leaders. But there are so many more front of stage and back of stage training techniques that myself and our coaching team use to set these tour leaders up for success. We also have inside our coaching program a guide training resource package. We have a number of printable resources that you can share with your team. And in addition, we have what's called Extraordinary Tour Leading. This is a recording that we put together that is 4 hours of the world's best tour leader training delivered online. As a coaching member, you have access to share this with your entire team. We cover things like legendary customer service, understanding and managing guest expectations, a blueprint for amazing first impressions, when things go wrong, and it's all delivered in a highly engaging video format. As much as possible, we work every day to give you the easy button for having success in your tour business, and that includes setting up a world-class training program and managing those underperforming staff and tour leaders. If you're interested in some of these resources or want to talk to an experienced tour business coach, you can grab a free 45-minute strategy call at the link guestfocus.com/book a call. We'd love to meet you and get you some quick wins. Thanks so much for tuning into this video, but before you go, let me know in the comments down below, what techniques do you use for managing underperforming staff? Thanks so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing your comments. Take care.